Our default reaction when we feel stuck at work is to look for new work. But sometimes the solution to getting unstuck is looking at your current work with new eyes. Hey leader, David Burkus here, organizational psychologist and author of 4 best-selling books on helping leaders and teams do their best work ever. And that includes doing your best work ever when you just feel stuck, when you feel like the work isn't rewarding anymore, when you feel like you're not growing, you feel like you're just in limbo, you feel that the job is monotonous, or people on your team feel that the job is monotonous, and as such, they're not putting in their best effort. According to a study by Oracle, almost 75% of respondents said that they feel stuck at work often. That's led to a current trend. Maybe you've heard of it if you're on TikTok or Instagram or just reading news articles about TikTok or Instagram, called quiet quitting. Now, the idea here is that instead of quitting, people just do the bare minimum they need to keep their job. They just voluntarily stay stuck. There's nothing new about quiet quitting. It's disengagement. We've had it for a long time. People do indeed feel stuck in their work. And when they do, they tend to look for new jobs. They tend to, I guess, out loud quit. But there's a better solution, perhaps. I mean, you took that job for a reason. You were excited about that job for a reason. And so sometimes the solution to getting unstuck or to getting people on your team unstuck is just to look at the work in a little bit different lens, just to change up something about how you do the work or how you view the work that can get you unstuck. So in this episode, we're gonna talk about 6 ways to do that. 6 ways to get unstuck instead of quiet quit. 6 ways to feel like you're actually growing and making momentum in your job. Let's get started. So the first way to get unstuck at work is to find new inputs. Find new inputs of ideas and of inspiration. You know, if you're watching this and you are a knowledge worker, in other words, the raw material of how you do your job and solve problems for your boss, for your clients, or for your team, is to use your own ideas. And the problem is, often we stop learning way too early in our career. Some of us stopped learning when we graduated high school or college. Others of us got in that first job or that first management position, and we stopped learning and we stopped looking for new inputs and new sources of ideas. But if we know anything about creativity and problem solving, it's that ideas are combinations of new ideas, new ways to approach your work, ways to solve new problems, ways to even just view your work in a little bit more motivational form come only from new inputs so that you can make new combinations of ideas to solve those problems. So pay attention. What are you inputting? Are you reading a decent amount of personal growth, self-development, leadership, or even productivity books? Are you watching some new twists on the same old dating show or game show on television or on Netflix or HBO Max or any other sort of streaming service? Or are you putting in inputs and learning through documentaries about your industry or about notable companies in the past? Are you just trying to be entertained by your inputs in order to de-stress from work, or are you trying to use that time and those inputs to make your work better? One of the fastest ways you can get unstuck: find new inputs, and you'll get unstuck in the output of doing your work. The second way to get unstuck at work is to focus on your who. Yeah, your who, not your why. With respect to Simon Sinek, I believe that people really do want to feel a sense of purpose at work, but purpose is personal. For most people, and this is probably true for you, the easiest and fastest way to feel motivated by your work is to know not why you're doing it, but more specifically, who is served by the work that you do. Yeah, you need to feel a sense of why, but often the answer to that why is a who. And if you're in a job that directly interacts with the customers or the stakeholders of your organization, then your who is pretty obvious. But if you're watching this and you're feeling stuck, odds are you're 1 or 2 people removed from your who. You don't get to see the who of the organization every day. So you need to think about who your who, that's a weird way to say it, who your who is. Maybe it's just the person you hand the work off to. When you're done doing the tasks that are part of your job, you hand it to somebody else. And so your who is actually that person, because the work that you do serves that person and helps them do their work better. So maybe it's an internal customer, if you will, an internal who. Regardless, there is someone whose life is made better by the work that you do. The question is, do you know who that is? And how often do you get to interact and see who that person is? If the answer to those is I don't know and not many, then something needs to change in how you're finding your who. The The third way to get unstuck at work is to volunteer for new tasks. I know. We talked about in the beginning, quiet quitting, the idea of doing the bare minimum. But the truth is, if you're bored, if you're feeling stuck at work, one of the reasons for that is that you're not feeling challenged anymore. We know this from a myriad of different research on human motivation and on stress levels, that actually people aren't most motivated or feeling the highest sense of well-being when they're totally de-stressed. There is a point in which the demands of the job and your abilities meet. Then you're not feeling overwhelmed, but you're not feeling bored either. We call that eustress. That point where the demands of the task are just challenging enough to feel like you have to continue to grow, but not so challenging that you feel like you can't make any progress. And if you're feeling stuck at work, one of the reasons for that, maybe you're not feeling any eustress. You just know how to do the job and you do it so well that it's boring to you. So the only real way to do that is either to try and grow up, find a new job, or in your current job, volunteer for new tasks. What new roles can you take on? What things can you volunteer to do for your team or for your boss or your manager that will help grow you because they'll require from you a new set of skills? If you get started working on those new tasks, odds are you're not going to feel stuck for very long. I mean, you're not going to have time to feel stuck because you've got new tasks to do. The fourth way to feel unstuck at work, reshuffle your personal board of directors. I love this concept of a board of directors. When I was teaching at university, I often got asked by undergraduates and MBA students about mentoring. How do I find a mentor? Will you be my mentor? By the way, don't ever ask your professor if they'll be your mentor unless you want to be a professor. Right? It doesn't necessarily make sense if you want to be an accountant to ask me, an organizational psychologist, to be your mentor. But the truth is, it doesn't make sense, I believe, to ask any one person to be your mentor in general. Because there are limits on what that one person can teach you. And usually you're looking to that one person to be your mentor in one specific sphere of your life. So if you're thinking about the totality of who you want to be and how you want to grow, that's going to require more than just one. So I would rather have people focus on a board of directors, a board of personal advisors, a group of mentors, if you will, who you can tap into. Now, here's the secret. You don't need to go find a personal board of directors. You already have one. The people you interact with most, whether you realize it or not, the people that you work alongside the most often, that you go to advice for the most often, those are already your personal board of advisors. If you're feeling stuck at work, you may need to add a couple seats to that board. You may need to take a couple people off of your board to make room for those seats, but you may need to change who you're hearing from so they can help you solve those new problems. It's sort of like a version of the first one. You need to find new inputs. Well, you need to find new people who are inputting into your life too. Reshuffle the seats on your personal board of directors. The fifth way to get unstuck at work, talk to your boss. Now, I mean it, right? If you've been in the role, this doesn't apply if you've been in the role for like 5 months and you're super bored. But if you've been in the role for 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, and you just feel stuck, you feel like you're adequately performing, ask your boss for a candid conversation. One, about your performance, but also about growth opportunities. Now, this is not the time to ask for promotion unless you really do feel like it's time to ask for promotion. If it's been 2 or 3 years, if you feel like you're ready to take on that new task, but just because you're asking for one doesn't mean there's one available. So that's not how we're leading the conversation. We want 2 things out of this talk to your boss conversation. One, we want feedback on how we're currently doing. Maybe we're feeling stuck and our boss is actually wanting us to grow into a new area that we didn't actually see. And so that feedback from him or her can be hugely valuable. But if you're truly stuck and you truly are performing well in your role with no idea how to get better at it, then that conversation with your boss can lead to new opportunities. Just like we want to volunteer for new tasks or find new inputs, often it's the person who's in charge of you and hence in charge of your career that can help you find the most and make room on the team for that. Maybe there's something he or she wants to actually offload and give you a chance to take over, like training your team every once in a while or writing a certain report. There's certain tasks that they're doing that they would love to give to you, or if they knew you were looking to grow, love to fight for the ability to give to you as well. But none of that's going to happen unless they know. So if you're feeling stuck, talk to your boss. The 6th and final way to get unstuck at work, and I want to emphasize here, it is the final way to get unstuck at work, make the move. Yeah, I mean, only if you've done the rest of these, if you've attempted to reshuffle your personal board of advisors and find new inputs, if you've talked to your boss and you volunteered for new tasks, and it's still not working, then it may actually be time to make a move. One of the challenges of organizational life is that new roles and responsibilities don't open up when you're ready. They open up when they're ready. Often you are waiting for somebody to move into a new position or quit or leave the organization for some other reason that we won't get into because it's way too morbid. Often you have to wait on that opportunity to present itself. And so you may grow faster and move faster if you make that move when you're feeling stuck. And what I'll tell you here is this is often not the best strategy. We saw this just after the COVID-19 pandemic, this great resignation of people, especially in knowledge work jobs that now felt free to reshuffle their career and find new work. That led to, for many people, a great regret. You know what? My past job really was better. So while making the move may help you get unstuck, it may just put you in a place where you feel stuck faster, where you're doing work that doesn't have a who, and so it's not as rewarding. You may find yourself regretting the fact that you make the move. So yes, this is a way you can get unstuck, but make sure you're checking the rest of these first. Make sure you're at least trying them to try and get unstuck before you make that move. What all of these ways have in common is that they're not just about changing the situation around you. They're also about changing you. When you seek new inputs or reshuffle your board of advisors, you're changing your ideas. When you find your who, you're changing your motivation. When you volunteer for new tasks or you talk to your boss, you're changing things about your knowledge, skills, and abilities in order to do that job. And often when we get frustrated and we feel stuck, we look to change the entire world, but that's quite hard. So what if instead we looked at our role with new eyes that said, hey, if I change something about me, I'll be doing the same job a little bit differently. And maybe that'll give me the motivation I need to feel unstuck. It may even give you the motivation you need to do your work better, to have better quality ideas, to have a whole new level of excitement about the work that you're doing, the work you previously felt stuck in, the job that is now helping you do your best work ever. Oh, and one more thing. If one of the ways you're feeling stuck is that you know you want to get into a leadership role and you just don't know how, then you're going to want to check out this video here on how to get a leadership position. We'll cover a variety of different ways you can position yourself to become a leader.